Hello, lovely, and welcome to the Essence of Expression podcast. Get ready to explore insights, lessons, practices, and wisdom from life for life. I'm your host, Arejay, healer, teacher, student, and sage. I'm excited and honored to have you with me on this journey. Let's dive in. I honestly didn't know what I was going to talk about this week, and normally I had planned to brainstorm earlier, and ended up talking to a friend instead, but it was so needed. And sometimes in life, that's just what we need, right? We have to be willing to pivot, and what may seem like not being productive, right? The thing that may seem like the more unproductive path actually ends up being a very much needed reset and enables us to be more productive than if we had tried to push through. And I think it's important that we be able to notice the signs and signals of when we're not okay, and be able to recognize and act on that, and not necessarily take it personally, right? Like sometimes our body needs to rest, our minds need to rest. Like we're just not where we think we are, right? And being able to read those signals that we get, whether it be strictly internal from our body, or maybe it's just something went like weird and wonky, being able to understand and take the signs and respond accordingly before we end up in a bad situation or a bad place is very important and crucial. And so what I'm actually going to share today is, I burnt the bacon. And now I cook bacon a lot. Like I like bacon, guys. You just like bacon. And I don't remember the last time I burnt the bacon. It was probably when I was first learning to cook bacon. So probably like teenage years. And, but I burnt the bacon, and this was like last week, I think. And it was really funny because I remember I was, super prepared. Like in my head, I had this plan, and like it was going to be a busy day, and all these things were going to get done. It was going to be super productive. I was going to meal prep, so I was going to cook all the food that I needed for the week. So that would be out the way. Had some like brainstorming sessions and like some work that I wanted to get into and do for my business. And I was very excited about this plan that I had laid out like the night before, right? So I was like, cool. So I was going to start with the bacon because I was also going to make breakfast, but that was part of the meal prepping. And I burnt the bacon. And I was like, that changed the entire flow of the day. Not because it was a bad day. It wasn't a bad day. But I burnt the bacon not because like, oh, I walked away and forgot that I was cooking it, or I got busy doing something else. No, I was right there the entire time with the bacon. Clearly, I was not as present as I thought I was. Like my mind was busy elsewhere, apparently, right? And the reason I let that be the pause button, right, is because one, clearly I'm not as focused as I think I am, right? Which means I'm not going to be producing my best work if I go ahead and continue with this plan and like force myself to stick with this idea that I had the day before, right? It's not going to be my best work. And so I didn't. I literally finished fixing the bacon, and the only other thing that I really did that was on my list and part of my plan was to go ahead and cook the asparagus as well. And that's only because I already had that marinating, like I was marinating that right before I started cooking the bacon. So I finished cooking the bacon and I cooked the asparagus. I didn't cut up the watermelon that I was supposed to cut up because I was like, we probably don't need to be handling like a really giant oversized knife right now, because even the simple process of cooking bacon was not successful right now. Like that was beyond the scope of my capacity at that moment. And And I just kind of had to nod and be like, yep, that's the sign to sit down now. And while that's definitely not the only sign to sit down, right? And I could have easily decided, like, we're going to push through this. And there have probably been plenty of times when I've gotten something similar to that and I have pushed through it. I do know what that results in, and it's never really pretty. The work that's created in that space isn't the best. I'm not usually satisfied with it, even if maybe it passes muster for other people. And I feel worse, right? Because maybe in that moment, like, I don't feel tired or I don't feel like I'm distracted or whatever. But because I push past, like, my body, my being was like, hey, we need attention. And I don't give it that. I'm just like, but I need to get this done. So we're just going to get this done and push through. I normally end up in a place where, like, hey, now we're sick. And so now I have to listen to it. But either way, it's just somehow amplified and magnified, and the result is worse and usually more time consuming than if I had just, like, taken heed at the first sign and maybe allowed myself to pause, rest, just breathe and, like, do nothing and just be, right? So my invitation to you guys is to think, what are some of those little signals? What are maybe some of the medium-sized signals? And what are those, like, big fucking flashing red alert meltdown signals that you get when you need to slow down and pause and give your brain and your body a break? And which of those are you able to listen to, right? Are you only able to listen when it's the red alert and you're that close to a meltdown? Or are you able to listen when it's a little softer, when it's a little more subtle, right? When you're further away from that edge? And really give yourself time to notice this, and really start to, as over, like, the next week or so, begin to pay attention and notice and just gauge where you're at. And are you giving yourself the space that you need, right? And you are allowed to need space. You are allowed to need time. You're allowed to need, period, right? You're a human being. You're allowed to have needs. You're allowed to take the time to satisfy those needs and make sure that you are being well resourced. So that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you for your time and attention. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this episode, please take a moment to share it with them. If you're interested in joining a community and diving further into these topics, please visit theessenceofexpression.com/community and request to join our community group. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night or day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.